Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Everyone always talks about magic during the holidays. Magic, as in objects miraculously appearing at your front door because you had them delivered through the Home Depot app. Magic, as in predicting the future, knowing what a product will be like just by reading our customer reviews. This may all feel like magic, but it isn't. It's just good old-fashioned cutting-edge technology. Make the holidays yours with a little help from the Home Depot app. How doers get more done.
This week is a special Christmas podcast where we're still talking about home improvement, including tips about using sawdust and glue to make a great crack filler on some of those woodworking projects. Also, how to make a carpenter's pencil into a Santa Claus. We'll show you exactly how that can be done. Also, we're dealing with some windows with a lot of condensation. What can you do to control that? And we have a number of really fun Christmas stories to share with you as well. What about that simple solution, Joe?
Well, Danny, this time of year, a lot of people are using their ovens more often than they ordinarily would. So I have a non-toxic oven cleaner you can make to keep that oven clean.
Fantastic. Let's get started. Right now we have Ben on the line, who's a regular listener in Virginia. Ben, I'm so glad that you gave us a call. We're anxious to hear this great tip that you have.
This is something I learned when I was in the 7th grade in wood shop. I know, a long time ago, but the teacher would mix up dust from the planer with wood glue, and he would create his own filler. So when I'm working around the garage, whenever I start a project, I save some of the sawdust from whatever I'm doing. And then when I'm ready to fill in the screw holes or nail holes, I mix it with some wood glue, to the right consistency, and then I use that to fill in the holes.
I have done this before, very similar to that, and boy, it just seems to work a whole lot better than trying to use some of the putties that seem to be almost kind of plastic looking, not having the texture of the wood and so forth. And, if you're careful with recessing those screws just a tad and then using the mixture that you're talking about here. I also like to do this where, if I'm working with pine or if I'm working with cedar, to kind of keep little separate little Ziploc baggies of the different shavings. And I think you said it right. It's almost the powdery type of sawdust is really what you want, more than something that would be real coarse that would come off of like a circular saw or something along those lines.
Oh, right. And a lot of times, if you have enough from your belt sander or whichever sander you're using in that little bag, that's the best source of it. You're right.
Yeah, Ben, that's exactly right. In fact, the very first time I saw this tip, I wrote a book several years ago on flooring, different types of flooring, and I was with a contractor putting down a hardwood floor, and then the gentleman came in to do the refinishing, and he took a piece of the scrap flooring that was left over, and he used a belt sander just to sand it, not for any particular reason, but he was just sanding it. Then he collected that dust and mixed it with, he used epoxy, because there were a couple of large knot holes that were like cracked in the floor, and he used that to fill. And what happens, of course, is you're using the wood that is the same wood as in the flooring, so it matches pretty well, and it fills almost any crack, hole, something like that. So you're right. And for most people, as you suggested, you could just use wood glue. I would suggest Type Bond 3, which is waterproof. You mix it up to a consistency and just squeeze it in there, and you let it dry, and then you sand it. And it's amazing how well it blends in. Of course, as I said, you have to make sure you're using the same species of wood because you want it to match.
I'm really surprised that so many people seem to know about this. I thought it was pretty unique.
I'll tell you, when we shared it one time, apparently a lot of people don't know about it because we got a lot of emails on it, and that's why we wanted to have you on the show today, because we thought it was just really good, one of those things. And you know what? There's new people picking up the hobby of home improvement and woodworking and so forth every single day. So there's a whole new group of people that we can share some of these good proven tips over and over again.
That's great.
And Ben, even though you thought it was unique and now you heard a lot of people know it, if someone has not heard it,
Yeah.
believe me, there are thousands of people who have not heard it. So we really appreciate you sharing it, because if you've not heard it before, it's unique to you. So you're spreading the word.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Well, Ben, we appreciate you listening to us there in Norfolk. And if we can help you any other other way in the future, let us know. We certainly hope you and your family have a great Christmas.
Thank you very much, and the same to you guys.
Thank you.
You know, when Joe and I get together and we talk about, growing up and the different things, whether it's, how we caught on to the home improvement bug or some of the Christmas traditions, it's always a lot of fun. And Joe, I shared with you a couple years ago about one of the things that we still do, even though my girls are grown and 2 of them are married now, they still like an old-fashioned scavenger hunt.
Really?
And
okay.
We used to do this on Sunday afternoons where I would, hide things out in the woods, and they would have to walk 10 steps this way, and I gave them a little compass. They have to, 10 steps, to the west, and they would look at it, try to figure it out, and, and just little gifts along the way, little tiny things along the way, just to get them thinking and that kind of thing. So a few years went by, and I all of a sudden thought about how, on Christmas morning, and you open up all the gifts, and sometimes you're getting up real early in the morning, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's 9 o'clock. Now what do we do?
Yeah, and, exactly.
So I came up with this idea a few years ago, and they absolutely love it, again, even though they're grown. So what I did is, of course, they're looking at their phones, and I get them, get aggravated at them that they're always on their phone. But I used that. So I texted all 3 of them. I was kind of out of the room. They didn't see it, and gave them the location that they needed to go and read the message.
Okay.
So it was a little box, a bread box in the kitchen. So I sent that, and I saw all of a sudden all 3 of them jumped up and ran in there, and they got the envelope out, and it gave for the first clue.
Right.
And I would get pretty clever with these clues sometimes. Like one of them, I would say it was something like, well, when you were young, you thought they were superstars. Not so much anymore.
Okay.
And they're talking and talking. Oh,
yeah.
What could that be? What could that be? And all of a sudden, one of them said, Mary Kate and Ashley. Boom. And they ran downstairs to the 100 DVDs that we bought when they were kids of Mary Kate and Ashley, started opening all of those, and about the 30th one, they found the next clue.
Oh, that's great.
And so it just gave something to do, and to move around and to laugh and chuckle. And it took them about an hour and a half to figure all of the clues out to get to the treasure at the end of the hunt, which ironically was 3 envelopes with a little check for the kids.
Right.
And it was under the cushion of the couch they were sitting on when they got the first clue.
They could have saved a lot of time if they'd skipped ahead.
They went outside, inside, all over the place, out by the pool pump, all over the place.
Oh, wow. Outside as well.
And one of them, it was something about the freezer downstairs. Right. The clue was actually frozen in the bottom of a Tupperware
Oh, my
thing.
gosh.
So they're looking, and they could see through the ice that there was a Ziploc baggie with another envelope in it. So they're looking at that, and of course they look over at me like, really? Here's the microwave. They
had to bust that out. They melted it.
They start melting it down, and then carefully pulling it out, and they pulled the next clue, and they went on and on and on. So it's a tradition that we do, and it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing now that we do. And now that we're at the new house, it's a little more challenging since they don't have history here. But I'm making it a little more challenging for them.
Well, you're building new history with the new house.
That's right. That's right. And it's
one of the clues should be drive to Home Depot and buy Dad a new belt sander and get home as soon as possible. Might as well get something out of the deal.
That's right. Exactly. But anyway, just all kinds of little traditions and things like that. What about food? What kind of food do you guys eat around your house there, Joe?
Well, we have pretty typical. If we go to see my mom, who loves cooking, and she cooks like 4 meals, she starts with antipasto, and we have pasta sometimes. We don't do the traditional Italian Christmas. My mom does. In fact, we always kid her because she would cook so much. She'd cook more than she had capacity to. So she'd run across the street to Mary's house. We had a neighbor in the house I grew up in, Mary Gog, and she'd run across and she'd use Mary's oven. So we'd be in the middle of dinner, we'd be just about finished, and my mother would jump up, oh my God, I forgot the roast, and we'd see her running across the street like, what the heck is, across our driveway, up Mary's driveway, she come running out with a roast that no one really has any room in their stomach to eat a roast. But so that was my mom. If there's 10 people coming, we cook for 30 just in case.
Boy.
But we just have sort of a traditional, we don't have turkey because we had turkey before, but we do a lot of fish, and depending on where we are and how many people we have, often we'll not eat at home because we're going to see my mom later in the day, and she's been cooking for 3 weeks, so there's no point in us cooking.
Well, one of the things that my wife does a lot is the some type of breakfast casserole that they create the night before. first thing in the morning turns on the oven to 350, and
Right.
it takes a long time. So while we're opening the presents and everything, that's in there, and we're drinking coffee and such. And then after that's done, and it just tastes so good. I mean, you only do it once a year
Right,
for some
yeah.
reason, because it's a
Exactly.
Christmas casserole, so you can't eat it any other time. And
Well, you also, the other lesson is don't hide a scavenger hunt clue in the oven.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Because no one looks in the oven before turning it on.
Yeah, that's right. That doesn't work at all. Time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Do-it-yourself bathroom renovation used to mean settling for just mediocre vanity cabinets, unless you had the skill to build them yourself. But Glacier Bay is changing all of that with their Everdeen line of vanities with cultured marble vanity tops and integrated basins. Now, these cabinets feature shaker-style doors and drawers and a solid white vanity top with an extra thick 2¼ inch profile for a real contemporary feel. Plus, the drawers are full extension drawers, so you get far more storage than the typical tilt-out without any interference to the plumbing connections. And to make it even easier for us do-it-yourselfers, the top is pre-drilled for a 4-inch center set faucet, and the cabinet back is completely open for easy plumbing access, and the decorative hardware is included. So for more information on this Glacier Bay Everdeen bath vanity with the cultured marble vanity top, log on to HomeDepot.com. I'll tell you, some of those vanities that you can get through Glacier Bay are just incredible now, and you don't have to wait so long for the custom cabinet making anymore. So that works out very, very well.
Yeah, and plus this one comes with the hardware and the sink molded into the top. We often talk about cultured marble and how well it holds up, so if you're remodeling a bath, this seems like a really quick and affordable way to do that.
Well, let's see if we can help Marvin from Alabama. Marvin, welcome to the show, and Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you guys.
Tell us what's going on with the windows here. We hear a lot about condensation issues. What exactly is happening with your windows?
Well, our house is 20 years old. We have double-pane windows, and it's building moisture at the very bottom of the bottom window and the very bottom of the top window when it gets below 40 degrees. Now, we keep the inside of the house about 70 degrees during the winter, and I've got a humidity monitor, and during this time of year, it's running about 70 or 75% inside the house. But it's so much moisture that my wife has to get up with a towel every morning and wipe it down, or it gets on the wooden windowsill, and I'm afraid it's going to rot out. So I'm looking for suggestions.
Well, it's definitely a condensation issue, and there's a couple things that are going on here. First of all, that relative humidity percentage inside your home should be 50% or less. For many, many reasons, it really, heating, cooling, indoor air quality, everything. So that's one big flag right there, that if you're reading with a hygrometer, if you're reading something above 50%, then there's something not quite right with that air conditioned heating system. A lot of times it'll actually be oversized, or the adjustments on it are making it to where it's not running enough. And a system running more often will mitigate that humidity a lot better. It won't necessarily cost you more money in your energy bill than one that comes on and hits it and goes off, on and off, on and off. That's one concern I would have. But Joe, also, if there's cold air sneaking in around those windows, that can also add to that.
I was thinking the same thing, Marvin. That's the reason you're seeing condensation at the bottom of the upper and lower sash, because that's where air can be leaking in, right? It's leaking in at the what's called the meeting rail, which is where the two sash meet in the middle, and then at the bottom where it meets the sill, air can leak in there as well. So that's the reason you're seeing the condensation right there. And Danny's right. If you have a hygrometer, just monitor the humidity in the room. Typically, when the outside temperature is below 40 degrees, the relative humidity inside should be between 25 and 40, 50 at the very most. So if you have a reading, as Danny said, anywhere 50 or above, then there's way too much humidity. Okay, so now what do you do? Well, depending on the severity of the problem, sometimes it can be solved just by leaving curtains and shades open to promote air circulation around the window, using exhaust fans and vents throughout the house, and that includes bathroom and kitchen vent fans. Obviously, you can always use a dehumidifier, but you might check, just make sure they're sealing when they're closed and locked, that they're really sealing tightly. Check the weather stripping. If necessary, maybe you have to install 2 sash locks instead of 1 sash lock. But it is definitely, the condensation is caused by humidity. There's nothing else that causes that. It's cold outside, it's warm inside, so condensation forms on the glass.
Well, would that be something I should call my air conditioner guy and have them come out and look at it?
Yeah, I mean, they could. Now, right now, you're in Alabama. Are you running your air conditioning? You're probably running your heat or
No,
both?
we're running the heat. Like I said, it's 40 degrees, and we keep the heat on like 70 degrees. But like I said, the humidity inside right now today is 70%.
Well, if the humidity starts to exceed 50%, sometimes you can lower the humidity inside by increasing the temperature inside until the humidity drops below 50. But again, so okay, that's great. But now what? It's not really solving the problem of where all this humidity is coming from. Or do you run your vent fans? You have a bathroom vent fan that exhausts outside and a kitchen vent fan that exhausts to the outside?
Well, unfortunately, the bathrooms do. The kitchen does not. But it's strange. It seems to be more humid on the north side of the house than the south side or anything like that. But
it's colder, right? The north side's colder.
Yeah.
You're still warm. The house is warm either by heat or just by sun or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, it sounds like it's the windows themselves. Fortunately, you don't have condensation between the panes.
No.
Which is often the call we get, and there's nothing to do there but replace not the entire window, but to replace the sash.
Right.
But I would certainly encourage you to call that air conditioning heating specialist, because I'll bet they find that is short cycling, that it is just not moving enough air to lower that humidity. I'll bet that's the problem. And then you want to just make sure that it is sealed well on the outside of the window, both where the windows meet, that weather stripping could be a little bit worn, and also the perimeter of the window to make sure that caulking has not cracked, that's allowing that cold air to sneak in there when it's lower than that.
Right.
Hey, Marvin, I was just thinking, I'm not sure this would work. I just thought of it, but I wonder if you took one of those windows that's a problem and just duct tape or something like at the meeting rail and at the sill, at the window sill, just tape it as much as you can to keep air out and just see what happens. See if that one window suddenly doesn't have as much condensation. If that's the case, then you can certainly understand that, okay, now we know that it's air leaking in, and that would, that might be the problem.
Okay, yeah, I could try that, because like I said, it's on multiple windows, so I could just pick one out and go try it and see what happens.
Might be a good test.
And also call the air conditioner guy and have him come out and take a look at that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, hopefully this will solve that problem, and that way your wife can enjoy something else other than keeping all that moisture off the windowsill.
Yeah, it gets old trying to rinse out those towels every day.
I bet.
Marvin, thanks so much for being with us, and I do hope you and your family have a great Christmas season.
All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate your help.
Hey, we're going to talk a lot about gifts, special gifts that we've received over the years. One of them is my Handy Andy tool set.
Oh, yes.
And if you go to todayshomeowner.com and then click on the listen button, you'll see where we posted a real special video that I did with my grandkids. It was Christmas time last year, where I talk about my Handy Andys and how special they are. I've got a whole collection of these things, and I want to read you, when we come back, a few of the comments that we've got. And after we posted that video, there's a lot of people out there that the Handy Andy Toolkit launched their career. I think I can kind of say the same thing about mine, where it gave you that first exposure to tools. They were all downsized just for our little hands when we were kids. And of course, we also got a few emails where people explained how they got into a little trouble with the hammer and the saw. And yes, I can say that happened to me as well.
Everyone always talks about magic during the holidays. Magic, as in objects miraculously appearing at your front door because you had them delivered through the Home Depot app. Magic, as in predicting the future, knowing what a product will be like just by reading our customer reviews. This may all feel like magic, but it isn't. It's just good old-fashioned cutting-edge technology. Make the holidays yours with a little help from the Home Depot app. How doers get more done.
We were talking about the Handy Andy gifts and so forth that I remember so much. And I don't know what happened to my original one, but I know I was sitting around the table there with my girls and my wife and having dinner, and I kind of brought it up. Well, of course, they are always looking for an excuse to grab their laptop and go on eBay. And I was amazed at finding dozens and dozens of different types of Handy Andy toolkits. And I said, well, can you buy those? And before I knew it, I had about $150 worth of these things, and probably 30 or 40 of them.
Wow.
And they were just so cool. Each one of them's a little different. But as soon as I saw the one with the little boy leaning over a building a doghouse. I knew that was the one that I had when I was a kid.
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
Of course, they bought me that one and bought me various other ones, which are, you've seen them there displayed in my office and also in our studio. It was so cool looking through all of them, and you'd have the colored pliers and little bitty hammers. But then I found one that looked just completely brand new. Now, think about this. This is 1963, 1965.
Right.
I opened that thing, and it was like a time capsule. It had never been touched. It had the original packing. I opened it up, and there was the little, they would have a little cartoon thing in there that, kind of uplifting, motivational kind of little cartoons,
right, yeah.
Feel good things. And then here's a hammer that never been used, and a little saw that never been used, and a little square of sandpaper that had never been used.
Wow.
And it was just amazing. And I did a little video on it, and I'd mentioned earlier in the show. Go check out the video. I had my grandkids in there with me, hammering away on my desk. And and you know who that was. Little Gus.
Yeah, let me take a guess.
That. But it is pretty cool. But I wanted to share with you, Joe, a couple of the things that people had written in. We got tons and tons and tons, but just a few of them. This one came in from Franklin. Said, I had one of the Handy Andy kits with the color picture on the lid. I was just recently having a flashback to the blue painted pliers and the blue painted hammer. More recently, my brother gave a Home Depot tool set to my 3-year-old. I quickly removed and hid all of the age-inappropriate items. Fun memories. So had to maybe take that little saw out and that kind of thing. Another one from Rob here says, I had the large wooden box with the blue label, 20-piece carpenter's tool chest. Forgot all about it until now. Might have to check with my parents on its whereabouts. So,
might be hidden away in Mom's attic or something.
You never know. Hopefully they didn't get rid of it, or I don't know. Mom and Dad, they might have put it on eBay to pick up a little extra money for retirement.
Yeah, maybe you own it now. Maybe you can sell it back to Rob.
I might have it. I'll have to check, Rob, and see if I have your Handy Andy toolkit.
We'll see just how bad Rob wants that tool set back.
And this is something that I can relate to. Don Paul says, what great memories. I remember I cut off the leg of an end table one time. That really didn't go over very well. So it seems like
Or maybe it did go over very well, depending how much of the leg you cut off.
I think I remember cutting into an arm of a dining room chair one time. And that's what happened to my Handy Andy kit. Now I figured it out. So.
Yeah, Mom hit it. Yeah.
Joe, what about gifts when you were a kid? Do you remember anything that stands out, something that you always wanted, and then all of a sudden it was there in your hands on Christmas morning?
Well, of course, as a small boy, everyone wanted a bicycle at one point, right? Upgrading from the little trike or whatever you had, like your first real bike. And the great thing about a bicycle is when you come down Christmas morning when you're like 10 years old, they can't really hide it in a box, right? I mean, typically it's just under the tree with a big ribbon on it. And I can still remember like it was yesterday, coming down the hallway and turning the corner into the family room. And there was the bike, big red bike, probably a Schwinn or whatever they were, right? All metal, probably weighed about 300 pounds. I weighed 38 pounds at the time or whatever. But one gear, But that was just too exciting to come down and see a brand new bicycle, right? And I wonder if that's still the case. They still give bicycles to kids when they're older? I'm not sure. Everyone wants something with a motor on it, I guess, these days.
Yeah. I'm sure I always think about on Christmas morning, especially late morning, the weather,
right.
If it's raining and sleeting, I always feel so bad for the kids because they want to get out there with their bicycles or skateboards, whatever they ended up getting, and try it out. And of course, rain's not going to stop them. They'll get out there with their rain suits on.
Yeah, well, that was the other part of it. That was sort of the downside of getting a bicycle living in Connecticut in December, and my birthday was in January. So if I got a gift like a bicycle or something you use outside, it was like, oh, got this beautiful bike at Christmas, and in only 2.5 months I can ride it. Like, now what do I do with it? Because you couldn't take it out. It was just way too cold and snowy.
Move the furniture back in the living room and go around in a big circle there. That's right.
I should have thought about that.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I could have used my Handy Andy kit, cut up the furniture to get it out the door.
Cut it up and have a little bonfire outside.
Keep myself warm.
We're not suggesting that to anybody that might be listening today.
I like the way you say we. He suggested. I didn't think.
I'd mentioned about the special gentleman that dropped by my office a few years ago, and he actually wanted to give me something. Asked my office manager. I happened to be in the office and walked out in the lobby, and he gave me these cool carpenter's pencils from Home Depot. They were orange in color, of course, and he had carved on the face of it this cool Santa Claus. Now, how in the world could you do that on a carpenter's pencil? But Joe, you've seen it before, and
yes.
Isn't that unique?
Yeah, it's amazing what inspires people to do certain things artistically, and why. I can understand it. You want to give Danny like a carved Christmas ornament kind of thing, but a carpenter's pencil. Well, I never would have thought of that. I'm not even sure it would have been possible, but he did an amazing job.
I know it. I held on to it for all these years. I regret that I didn't get his name, and but I think we found his name, and also we had another person online send us a picture that had to have been carved by the exact same gentleman, but this is something you really want to go check out right now at todayshomeowner.com. Click on the listen button and look at the picture of this. It might be something that you might want to take on with that carpenter's pencil that's laying there in your workshop right now. Really, really cool. But go by todayshomeowner.com, click on the listen button, and you'll see a picture of this and a couple of the comments. And we also identified who we think did this. We also have included that in case you want to contact the individual. But right now we're going to shift gears, and our friend Joe Truini is going to share with us another simple solution.
All right, Danny, this time of year, a lot of people are using their ovens, and maybe they're getting a little dirtier than they ordinarily do. So here's a recipe for making an effective, non-toxic oven cleaner that produces no noxious fumes. Because if you've ever used the commercial stuff that comes in the spray cans, whoa, that stuff's pretty, but be sure to read the directions. But anyway, so what you want to do is take the peels of 2 oranges. Take 2 oranges and just remove the peel. Put them into a jar, then fill the jar with white vinegar. Seal it tightly and let the jar sit on the countertop for about a week to 10 days, something like that. Then use a funnel to pour the vinegar into a plant mister. All right, so now you've got this solution. It's got the citrus from the orange and it has the vinegar. And open up your oven, sprinkle baking soda on the floor of the oven and on the glass door, the interior of the glass door, and then spray on the vinegar right over the baking soda. Wait maybe 20 or 30 minutes, then wipe the surfaces clean using a scouring sponge. And you'd be surprised, just doing that once will get almost everything off, because it just give it 20 minutes to work. And then if necessary, you can repeat it. But that alone usually cleans off almost any baked on stuff that is spilled out of your cooking and onto the oven.
Boy, that is great. And how timely. That is perfect for everybody that's utilizing those ovens right now. And I'm telling you, those cleaning cycles where you turn that cleaning thing on, that is scary. I don't know.
I wonder, the oven gets to like 600 or 700 degrees or something? I know, it's supposed to just bake it off? I don't get it.
It heats up the kitchen. It just, your meter is spinning so fast on the outside of your power meter, it's about to take off. Yeah, that's a good one there, and you can find out a lot more about the simple solutions by going to todayshomeowner.com/simple solution. Now it's time for our podcast question of the week. This one comes from Sandra in Kentucky. Help. We're remodeling our bathroom, which included removing the bathtub and plumbing. When capping off the water lines, my husband, in parentheses, the uncoordinated one in the family, spilled PVC pipe cleaner on a cultured marble vanity top. How do I remove the stain? So, well, Joe, you know that we've used that PVC pipe cleaner quite a bit, and pretty harsh. What can be done? Are they going to be able to save this countertop? Well,
they can certainly try. I'm glad he spilled the pipe cleaner, the PVC cleaner, or sometimes it's labeled a primer, because that's clear. If he had spilled the glue, which is typically purple or some other bright color, that would be a challenge. There's a line of products called Mrs. Meyer's that makes a great line of products, and they have one called Baking Soda Cream Cleaner, which is perfectly fine for use on cultured marble. You don't want to use anything too aggressive. That's the problem, because you don't want to scratch it up. But if you can't find that, you want to try homemade solution. This is one we've mentioned in the past that works pretty well. You take a cloth and you soak it in white vinegar and lay it over the stain. And you have to wait several hours and keep the cloth wet. Make sure if it starts to dry out, you wet it with more white vinegar. And then mix up a paste of water and Barkeeper's Friend, which is another product we've mentioned a couple of times. It's kind of like Comet, but it's not as aggressive, because, again, you want to use something that's relatively mild on this. And then, so you mix up the water and the Barkeeper's Friend to make a thick paste, spread it onto the stain, wait overnight, and then you can scrub it. And again, just use a sponge. And that alone should at least clean it up and make that, whatever stain she's seeing, lighten, if not go away entirely. Then you can always repeat it.
And that same approach can be used if you have some makeup stains on there or other stains
Right,
that you
yep.
have on your cultured marble top. Great way to go on that. We appreciate that question, Sandra. And if you would like to send us one that we can answer on our podcast, you can do so by going to todayshomeowner.com/podcast. Hey, from all of us here at the Today's Homeowner family, we certainly want to wish you a Merry Christmas and hope we see you next week.